another science lesson for you. So we're just going to work through, obviously watch the video. I'll give you different tasks to do at different points. And if you've got any questions, then obviously you can message me during the lesson, or if you need to email me any work, that's absolutely fine. All right, so first thing you need to do is look at the pictures and decide what they are. So if you pause now, right, fingers crossed you have done that. And what we are looking at here is some seeds. We've got different varieties of seeds, and they will all be found in different places. And the way that, well, we're going to look at seed dispersal this lesson, and how all of these seeds are adapted for their method of seed dispersal. It'll all become a lot clearer as we move through the lesson. So title and date in your books. So title, seed dispersal, today's date is the 11th of December. So if you get those written down and underlined in your exercise books, that'd be great. So if you need some more time, obviously just stop the video and then we'll move on. So what do we mean by seed dispersal? So I've drawn you some amazing pictures. As you can see, we've got the first picture. Hang on, get a laser pointer. No, maybe not. There we go. Right, we've got this picture here. So you've got your parent plant and then your seeds are directly underneath it. And it says these seeds have not been dispersed. Then we've got our second picture that says these seeds have been dispersed. And you can see that the seeds are further away from the plant. So what I want you to do is have a think about what do we mean by seed dispersal. So pause this, have a think about it, and then we'll go through it on the next slide. Right, so seed dispersal means spreading out of seeds from the parent plant. So it means that any seeds that the plant produces, they don't just fall straight underneath the parent plant, they might move further away from it. And we're going to look at why they might do that in a second. So we've got some trees here. Obviously trees do produce seeds. It could be things like pine cones and things like that. Why might a parent plant want to spread out their seeds? So you need to imagine if the tree drops the seeds directly underneath it, do you think the parent plants would end up competing for anything? So imagine you've got your seeds underneath the tree. Would the seeds and the parent plant end up competing against each other for anything? So look at the picture, think about it, think about what plants need to survive. Think about photosynthesis, which I know a lot of you have done in science already this year. I know my group have. So think about what plants need for things like photosynthesis, and are they going to be able to get all of those things very easily if they're competing for a fully grown plant. So pause it, have a think about it. Okay, so they would end up competing for stuff. If you think about it, if you look here in particular in this picture, you've got really tall trees. And those trees and those leaves, they block out a lot of the light. We know that one of the key components, or one of the things that you definitely need for photosynthesis, is sunlight. Without sunlight, you're not going to get any photosynthesis. Therefore, your plant's not going to grow because it's not going to get any food. All right. So they will be competing for light, for water. Think about these trees. They're going to have massive roots underneath the ground, and those roots absorb the water from the soil. Imagine you've got a tiny little baby plant trying to grow. It's only got really small roots. It's not going to get a lot of water. Nutrients, again, they come from the soil. So these adult plants are going to have really big roots. They're going to get all the nutrients really quickly. And space. You can't have loads and loads of plants growing in one tiny little area. So for that reason, they need to spread out. They need to grow. So plants disperse seeds to prevent this competition from happening. But how do they do it? So I've put some picture clues on the board for you. Can you write down as many ideas as you can of how seeds get dispersed? So look at the pictures. You've got some that move, and that should really give you a clue. You've got the picture of the dog here. So the little these things here, the little brown things, they are the seeds. And obviously you've got this, which is like a coconut, and you've got the stem coming out the top of it. So think about how these seeds are traveling. What's making them travel? How are they being carried to different places or moved to different places? So write down some ideas. Pause the video now. Right, so there are four main types of seed dispersal. You've got animal, explosive, wind, and water. So all of those you should have been able to get from those pictures because you saw the bird eating the seed, eating the fruit, which has got a seed in the middle. You saw the sticky things on the dog. You saw the little explosive seed, the dandelion being blown by the wind, and then the coconut in the water. They're all methods of seed dispersal. Okay. All of those methods, they transport seeds to different places away from the parent plant. So what I would like you to do in your exercise books now is just to summarise what we've learned so far. Okay, so your first question is, what is seed dispersal? And I've given you sentence starters for all of these. Okay, why do plants disperse seeds? So again, I've given you a sentence starter and the 4 ways that seeds can be dispersed. So pause the video now. Have a go at doing these questions. Right, I'm really hoping you've paused the video. And let's go through these answers then. Let me just get a different pen colour. Right, that'll do. Right, seed dispersal is, I apologise for my terrible handwriting because it will be bad. Seed dispersal is the spreading out of seeds from the parent plant. That means the original plant. Parent plant just means the original plant that it came from. So if you had an apple tree, all of the apples and the seeds inside those apples, they're like the offspring of the plant, and the apple tree itself is the parent plant. All right. Plants disperse seeds to avoid competition for light, water, nutrients, and space. Okay. The 4 methods of seed dispersal there are animals, wind, water, and explosive. So what I would like you to do, if you have got any of these answers wrong, or you've not done it in full sentences, you need to change that for me. So you should have the purple sentence starter and the red answer. If you have got them correct, obviously give it a tick, write SM in the margin for self-mark. And if you've got anything wrong, obviously correct it for me. So pause the video now if you need time to do that, and then restart it and we'll move on to the next bit. Okay, so first thing then, let's look at animal seed dispersal in a little bit more detail. So there are 2 ways through which seeds can be dispersed by animals. So look at the pictures. How do you think these seeds are spread by animals? There's 2 different ways. All right, so have a think about it, pause it. Right, let's go through them then. So obviously that bird is eating some fruit, and in the middle of that fruit there will be a little seed. All right, now that seed won't get digested by the bird. So what will happen is that bird goes to the toilet, that seed is going to come out. Obviously the bird doesn't go to the toilet exactly where it's eating the fruit. It takes a little bit of time for the seed to go through the system. So actually by the time that bird poos out that seed, it's going to be further away from the plant. That's how seed dispersal works. All right. And the next one then, you've got this picture here. Looks quite horrible, but obviously this is zoomed in. It's not painful if you get any of these stuck to you. So these spikes, or some of them have, some seeds have hooks. They will attach to the fur of an animal. So an animal brushes past the seed sticks to the fur, and at some point, as the animal is moving, that seed will fall off into a new area, and obviously that seed will grow. So let's just go over that again. So some seeds are eaten. Now the fruit, so you can see that this really colourful bird eating that sort of orangey, reddy bit of fruit. That fruit's bright coloured and sweet tasting, so the animals want to eat it. The seeds cannot be digested. Let me just, I've made a typo. Seeds cannot be digested, so are released when the animal poos. Some seeds get stuck to animals, so these seeds have hooks or spikes so they can stick to an animal's fur, and eventually they'll drop off. Okay. Explosive then. There is a little video clip here I can't play it for you. I'll put the link in the lesson at some point. In fact, I might put it on. I've got some resources to put on, so you'll be able to watch that video. It just shows you that when these sort of seeds are ripe, or if something touches them, they will sort of explode and the seeds will shoot everywhere. So it'll move away from the parent plant. So that's explosive. Wind. So have a look at these seeds. Look at what features they have, and how that might help them be spread through the wind. Let's have a think about it. Right, so we'll go through this then. You can see with the dandelion, we've obviously got something that looks a little bit like a parachute. So we've got the nice sort of fluffy bit that comes off, and what happens is the wind comes past, it picks up the little fluffy bit and it carries it away from the plant. So you know, if you've ever picked up a dandelion and blown it, those seeds do actually travel quite far. So each individual dandelion clock is a seed. So you can see the little seed bit at the bottom here. And we know that dandelions seem to grow everywhere, even if we don't want them to. These seeds here then, we say that they've got sort of like helicopter wings. So what happens, these are normally found on trees. So really high up, breeze comes past through the tree. Once the seed is ready, or once the tree is ready to release the seeds, it gets carried by the wind, and they will travel quite far, some of these. So they've got wings, they're lightweight, which means they can carry by the wind and travel longer distances. Okay, water then. So I know this looks a little bit funny, but all of these little white bits on top of the water, they are in fact seeds. Okay, and a coconut here, again, or it's like it's some sort of nut. It might not be a coconut. You know, it's on the water. So think about, what do you notice about the seeds? One really obvious thing. They both float. So they will be carried down the river. We know that rivers move quite fast, so they stay on top of the river. And what happens is, at some point down the river, they'll end up at the edge and they'll get caught in some shrubbery, or they'll end up landing on like a beach, and that's where they'll grow. So that could be travelled. The seed could travel hundreds of miles or thousands of miles, really, depending on where it is. And obviously that plant will then spread out, and the seed will grow, and it's not going to be competing with its parent plant, because the parent plant's going to be really, really far away. Okay, so with water, the seeds are adapted because they float on water and they're waterproof and have a small mass. Obviously this one doesn't have a small mass, but most of them do have a small mass. Okay, so what you are going to do now is, you have got a little match-up task to do. The sheet is in the science lesson. If you found this lesson, the worksheet is in the same place, so that should help. All right, so it's a match-up task, and then we'll go through the answers. Right, I have not got the answer one open, so I'm a bit of a silly Billy. So pause it, have a go. There are 2 descriptions for the animal, but only 1 picture, so please bear that in mind. Right, fingers crossed this will work. So hopefully you've paused it, you've had a go. If you haven't paused it, pause it now, because I'm about to go through the answers and you don't want to cheat. All right. So answers then. So as I said, animals have got 2. So animals go to this one. So bright and sweet tasting, hard-coated seeds that can't get digested. And it also, follow the line, has hooks. And obviously they both go to that picture. I'm not going to draw that one, because obviously that's not a, if you want to draw a little seed that has a hook, that has hooks on it, so it looks sort of like that. It's like a weird spider, but it is a seed. So yeah, there's hooks everywhere, and it hooks onto animals' fur. So you're treated to a little art lesson here. Right, let's do that one. I'm just gonna join it up there. Right, wind. Oh, in fact, we missed out explosive. This one's pretty obvious. Burst open when ripe. The picture might not be so obvious. This is the pea. The pea will open up all right, when it's ready. Yeah, so that's that one. Right, wind. I will number these up because I realise my labelling's not the best. So wind, they've got small mass extensions, parachutes. So that is this one here, and then water, small mass, and then those seeds will float. So I think that actually you can see that, that's fine. All right, so make sure you've got the right answers. If you've got any of these wrong, obviously you can re-download the worksheet or change the worksheet. If you want to, you can obviously write all of this out into your books. You don't have to do that though. But obviously, unless you've got a printer at home, you're not going to be able to print this worksheet off. All right, so you're either going to want to write it out or save it, and then you can print it off when you're back in school, if that makes sense. Okay, right, let's go back to the lesson. I'm really hoping all of this is recording, otherwise I'm going to be mightily upset. Right, next thing then. So we've looked at the methods of seed dispersal. What we need to look at now is how these seeds are adapted to obviously be dispersed in the way that they are. So we obviously know about the hooks on some of the seeds for animals. We know that that if seeds travel by wind, they're going to have like parachutes or wings to help them travel. But what we're going to look at in a little bit more detail is those wind transported seeds. So a student wanted to investigate how the wing length of a seed affects the distance it travels. So you've got 3 pictures there, 3 seeds, and they're the same type of seed, but they've got different lengths. All right. So looking at the equipment, you've got the seeds, so you could have printouts of these seeds. How do you think they could do this using the following equipment? So they've got a ruler and they've got a little step ladder. How do you think they can investigate how the length of the wing affects how far the seed travels? What could they do? So pause the video, have a think about it. Right, so fingers crossed you did that. So what you could do is you could stand on the step ladder, you could hold the seed up at a height, let go of it, and then measure how far it's travelled away from where you've been stood. Okay, and obviously you'd use the different the different wing lengths even, and drop those, and then measure how far they've travelled. So I would imagine it. I'll draw you a little diagram to explain what I mean. So you've got say this is your ladder. You've got your person. You've got very short legs. Hold up the seed in the air. They let go of it. The seed travels. And I know I'm drawing all over the thing. And then you'd measure how far it has travelled. All right. So apologies for the terrible drawing, but hopefully you understand what I mean now, which is what I was aiming for. All right. So variables then. So you need to think about what the variables are in this investigation. So what is our independent variable? What's our dependent variable? And what are 2 control variables? So just in case you can't remember, your independent variable is the thing that you change. Okay, so what are we changing in this investigation? Okay, what are we going to measure? So our dependent variable means what we're going to measure. Okay, and our control variables are what we keep the same. Okay, so pause the video, have a think about it, write these down in your book. So what do you think our independent variable is? What's our dependent variable? And what are our control variables? And we'll go through the answers in a second. Okay, so hopefully you've done that. So our independent variable then is the length of the wing on the seeds. Okay, what is our dependent variable then? We are going to measure how far the seed travels. Okay, 2 things we're going to keep the same. We're going to drop them from the same height every time, otherwise they could end up travelling further or not as far as we expect. And we're also going to make sure we've got the same conditions in the room. So if you were doing this experiment outside, you'd need to do it all sort of roughly the same time, because there could be a breeze that could affect your results. So you want the same conditions. So e.g. inside, so there's no breeze. I hope that makes sense. If anyone came up with any others, feel free to message me or email me, whatever, or just write them down in your book. It's up to you. Right, so hypothesis then. What I would like you to do is write a hypothesis in your exercise book for this investigation. Obviously, we're not going to physically do the investigation ourselves, but I'm going to give you a set of results, and I would like you to find out if you think your ideas or predictions about what might happen match the results, all right? So to help you with your hypothesis, remember, hypothesis is just a scientific prediction. I've given you a sentence, and you basically just need to pick a word at the end of it. So as the wing length increases, I think the distance the seed travels will, and then you need to pick either increase or decrease. So as that seed gets bigger, do you think it will travel further or not as far? All right, so write your hypothesis into your book. Obviously pause it now, get it written down. Right, hopefully you've done that, and we will move on to the next bit. So these are the results for the experiment. So we've got 4 different types of wing and length at the same time. We've got 4 different lengths of wings, and they're obviously in centimetres, and we've got the mean distance travelled by the seed. So a 2 centimetre seed travelled 15 centimetres, a 4 centimetre seed travelled 30 centimetres, a 6 centimetre seed travelled 45 centimetres, and an 8 centimetre seed travelled 60 centimetres. Obviously, this was inside, dropped from a height, so you know the distances aren't probably what they'll be outside with an actual tree. Remember, these are just paper seeds. So what happened to the distance the seeds travelled as the wing length increases? Well, as you look at our results, as the length of the wing increased, the distance travelled by the seed also increased. Okay, so if you put for your hypothesis increased at the end of that sentence, then your hypothesis and your results match. Okay. So next one, writing the conclusion. So our simplest conclusion could be, as the wing length increases, the distance travelled by the seed increases. However, in science, that's not really the best way to write a conclusion. You've got data that you've collected, all right? So you need to include that data in your conclusion to make sure it's a good conclusion. If you don't include data, then, you know, it could just be a statement and we don't know if you've actually proved it or not. So what I've done for you is I've written out, so you can obviously write a conclusion on your own if you feel like you can, but if you are struggling and you don't really know how to word a conclusion or write a conclusion, I've done it for you, but I have taken out some of the results, all right? So as the wing length increased, the distance travelled by the seeds, they need to fill in that gap. Our results show this because the seed with a wing length of 2 centimetres travelled, then obviously you'd put the data in from the table, but the seed that has a wing length of 8 centimetres travelled, and you'd put that data in from the table. So I want you to pause the video now, and we'll go through the answers in a second. Let's go through the answers then. So as the wing length increased, the distance travelled by the seeds increased. Okay, our results show this because the seed with a wing length of 2 centimetres travelled 15 centimetres. Okay, but the seed that has a wing length of 8 centimetres travelled 60 centimetres. Okay, and that is a good conclusion. So make sure you've got that down. So if you did your own version of a conclusion, you could have used other data from the table, as long as you've got a short wing length and a long wing length to compare against each other. And you have summarised the fact that as the wing length increases, the distance travelled also increases. Final thing for this lesson then, and you can just get on with this independently. I'm not going to talk you through it all. You can, once you've done this and you've answered some of the questions, in fact, I'm going to label up the questions for you. So I've got question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You need to pick some questions to do, and you are aiming for 5 points. So if I wanted to get to 5 points, I could choose question number 3 and question number 5, because 3 and 2 is 5. All right. If you are finding that you've got lots and lots of time left, you can have a go at doing more questions. If you want to send these over to show that you've done them, that's absolutely fine. If you don't know my email address, it's locker.a@hungerhillschool.com. But you'll be able to find me on the email system anyway. Or if you want to send it over Teams, again, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. So you're trying to get to 5 points. If you have loads of time left during this lesson, then obviously you can do more questions. If you want to do all the questions, that's absolutely fine. But you are aiming for 5 points minimum. Okay. And that is the end of the lesson. Obviously, if you've got any questions, I am around during the lesson to answer them for you. Okay, so hopefully it all made sense. If you've got any problems, email, and let's see if this has worked.